Howdy, everyone. This is probably going to be one of the tougher, or probably the toughest and heaviest video topic that I've talked about on this channel. Also, I did fix my sound. Thank you to everyone who pointed it out. It got reset for some reason. But yeah, and I figured instead of jumping straight into the heavy stuff of the video, I figured I'd start a little bit more lighthearted and talk about my review of the Minecraft movie because I just saw it last night. I'm a little late to the party. I know it came out like 2 weeks ago or something like that, but I was on vacation when it came out, so didn't really get a chance to see it until yesterday. If you don't want to hear about it, I'm not going to give spoilers or anything, but if you just want to jump straight into the video, feel free to skip ahead like 2 minutes or something. I won't take too long. Um, but yeah, in general, I really like the movie for a number of reasons that I'll get into. I think the movie itself, from like a pure like cinematography, filmmaking standpoint, I think it was fine. I think it was on par with probably what we were expecting. I think it was like on par with what I was expecting at least. Like the plot wasn't anything crazy or complicated. Like it was a very straightforward plot, right? It was like good guys versus bad guys, very very simple, predictable. Um, the cinematography, like the art style and everything, I actually quite liked. I think it stayed very true to the Minecraft style, right? Like you could tell it was like it's a Minecraft movie. Um, Special effects, the and all that, I think it was pretty good for what it was. And I think they combined the sort of like cartoony Minecraft art style with, the fact that it was live action. I think they combined it pretty well. Um, there were some goofy parts, some of the animations and stuff of the people. I think were kind of silly, but I think it stays true to what the movie is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a very serious movie. Um, but I think the real main part that I liked, obviously, was, I think for most people, was like the sentimental value of it. Um, as someone who basically grew up like playing this game, um, I think I've probably been playing this game for like half of my of my life now. Um, like I think it's like with the generational run that this game has been on, I feel like that culminating to this point where we've got like a major movie that has grossed like 700 million or something and is honestly like a pretty good movie. I feel like that's just cool to see, you know, as a fan of the game. Um, but yeah, I think that's my sort of review of it. As my friend very accurately described, in terms of the actual movie, it was very very movie like. He was saying like, it's like the producers looked up what a movie is supposed to contain and did exactly that, and I completely agree. But to me, I think the sentimental value is really where the movie shines. Um, but anyways, yeah, that's my review of it. Jump into the video now. So, um, yeah, as you can tell by the title, it's gonna be a pretty heavy video. This topic isn't an easy thing to talk about. Um, but yeah, so I guess this serves as kind of like I don't know, like a trigger warning or a little disclaimer. I guess we're gonna be talking about death and grief and stuff, and if you don't want to hear about that sort of stuff, if it's a sensitive topic for you, probably don't watch the video. Um, but yeah, again, subscribe, like if you enjoy the content. Appreciate y'all watching and giving me support on the videos. Really appreciate it. Uh, the Google form thing has also gotten some responses, so thank you to the people who have been submitting that. I think I'll wait for like till this video uploads and then probably compile some of the good responses into like a Q&A sort of video. That's my plan. Um, but yeah, I figured probably just start with some of my own experiences. It is pretty tough to record this, right? Like I had to, when I was thinking about what to talk about, I had to resurface all the bad memories from my past. But uh, you gotta do what you gotta do. Some like you're gonna think about these sorts of things, so yeah. But I've lost loved ones, I've lost family members in the past. I'm sure at least some of y'all watching this video probably have been through something similar. Um, and yeah, so specifically, my I lost a grandparent from my mom's side, grandparent from my dad's side, and then an uncle from my dad's side, and all very sad experiences, obviously. But I do feel like I've got some stuff that I want to talk about and how it affected me. Some of the things, as I was writing out the things I was planning on talking about, I feel like some of it definitely does sound cliche, but that's like the stuff I'm talking about in this video is genuinely just like how I feel about it. So I'm not trying to, I'm not purposely trying to sound cliche and stuff like that. But to be fair, I feel like a lot of people probably go through the same sorts of emotions, which is why these things are so like common, I guess. Um, and yeah, so I figure I start with the obvious sort of feelings, right? Like you're gonna feel a lot of denial, a lot of grief with whenever you lose a loved one, or whenever you feel strong like negative emotions like this. Um, and I think that's inevitable. But I don't want to solely focus on the negative parts. I think there's a lot that you can learn about yourself, about the world around you, and I think um, like losing a loved one and going through like a traumatic experience like that, I feel like does end up having some like positive impacts in the long run, I guess. I say positive very lightly. I don't mean like it's like you're gonna be like happy or anything as a result of this sort of stuff. But I feel like you can learn a lot of like very important life lessons. And I think one of them, I think the main one that I personally feel is just more appreciation for the loved ones that I still have around. Um, like when you lose a loved one, you come to realize that not everyone is gonna stick around forever, right? Like we're all gonna grow old. It's inevitable, and then when you grow old, at some point you will pass away, unless we invent the fountain of youth or something in our lifespan. Um, Definitely not counting on that. Um, and yeah, like when it comes to like my relationship with my parents, my close friends, like I feel like I show a lot more appreciation for those people than I previously did. Because yeah, like you kind of realize like at any point you could lose these people. I tell I feel like I call my parents more often nowadays, especially since I don't live with them, and frankly, I live pretty far away from them. So I see them maybe like once or twice a year, when time permits. So I call them more often. I video call them, FaceTime, and all that. Tell them I love them more often, that sort of stuff. Same goes with my friends. My close friends. Um, I try to connect with them more. I try to keep in touch with more friends, and check up on them, make sure they're doing all right. There are some friends, admittedly, that I don't, like people from college and stuff, that I don't keep in touch with regularly because of distance, and we don't live in the same place. We kind of have our own lives now. But I do try and make an effort to keep in touch with them at least, and talk to them every now and then. Um, and yeah, and I feel like in general also, I just show more like empathy and compassion. I feel like is another big thing. Um, like not even it doesn't even have to be like showing more empathy for people that have uh also lost their loved ones, but just showing more empathy in general. Um, like if people are going through tough times, I feel like I relate to them a bit more because frankly, like I feel like losing a loved one is probably one of the most like awful experiences you can go through. Like experience with really really strong emotions. So when people are also going through their own personal struggles, I feel like I connect with them more. I feel like I can better support them, you know. Um, and yeah, I feel like I'm just like a bit more receptive to those emotions than I uh, might have previously been. And maybe that is also just due to me kind of becoming more mature. Like that's definitely like part of it. Um, but I think like having gone through um, loss, I think has contributed to that pretty heavily. Let me get some sand right now for glass. Um, and yeah, and this next point I'm gonna talk about, I feel like is probably something you've heard of, and this was the point where I was like, dude, this sounds so cliche. Um, but I feel like when you lose a loved one, you definitely realize the fragileness of life. And I feel like with this, it doesn't even have to be losing like a loved one. I feel like just seeing, I don't know, like seeing the news and stuff, right? About like all the crazy stuff that's going on, and people dying and stuff, and people struggling. I feel like that in and of itself, I feel like already makes me realize like how like lucky I am to still be here, how lucky I am to have people around me that are alive and well. But I think when it's someone that's so close to you, I feel like it definitely hits harder. Um, and yeah, it sounds cliche, but I really do feel like this is something that I felt. And then also as a result of that, I've kind of like sort of like reprioritized the things that I spend my time on, I guess, because like people always say like you don't want to look back when you're gone, and or like when you're old and have any regrets, right? And I feel like that's very true. Um, to make this, or I guess I should say, I think it also depends pretty heavily on, without going into too much detail, like the way in which you, like the way in which someone you love passed away. Right. Like what I mean by that is like if there's like a very sudden death in your family, I feel like that proves this point a lot more than say like a family member that was like very old and passed away. Not saying like either like one is like more traumatic than the other, but I'm saying like it has like different emotional effects, I feel like. For instance, to get kind of personal here, my uncle from my dad's side that I mentioned, he passed away very suddenly. It was a sailing accident. He really enjoyed sailing, and he passed away doing what he loved. He was sailing out in the ocean, had a pretty awful accident, and passed away. And I feel like that was one that was very sudden, because my uncle wasn't, he wasn't that old. Like he was my dad's age. I think he was probably in his like 50s, I'd say. And that was a very sudden one. Like no one expected that to happen. On the other hand, with my grandparents, it was like, okay, like my grandma was like in her late 80s, right? Like it wasn't, obviously it was still shocking, but it wasn't as shocking because you kind of like start to um not expect these things to happen, but I feel like you kind of um I don't know like a nice way to say this. I don't want to come off as like insensitive, but like you know what I mean. Like you kind of like you'd probably be less surprised um when it's someone that's that old, right? Because naturally, as you get older, your body just starts to have more problems, and you just become more fragile. Um, and then yeah, so like back to the topic of my uncle's passing, I feel like that was one where it really like hit me very hard. It was like, wow, like 1 second you could be here, the next second you could be gone. Um, and obviously, whenever he went out sailing, I never expected to be like, okay, like this time might be his last. You know, I would never expect that sort of thing to happen to him. So that was that was where this point was coming from. Was like, yeah, life is fragile, you know. It's definitely made me more careful of the stuff that I do as well. Like I know people will say like, oh, like, you know, you realize time is so fleeting, so you should like go out and do all the crazy stuff that you want to do and stuff like that. But also, I feel like there's also something to be said about like being a bit more conscious of the stuff that you are doing, being more careful, because frankly, like, yeah, like something bad could happen like any day of the week to you, you know. Um, but yeah, and then as I was saying, reprioritizing my time. I think that's a I think that's the bigger takeaway is like, can I make glass panes actually? No, there's no glass panes. Okay. But yeah, reprioritizing my time. Um, you know, if you feel like time is fleeting, you're going to spend your time doing the things that you love. Um, like you probably heard this before, but something along the lines of like time is like the only finite resource or something like that. But you know, it's true, right? Like you can't really get more time back. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. Um, that was actually all that I wrote down. But yeah, I mean, yeah, heavy topic. Whoever I forgot who commented. I think multiple people suggested this video. So apologies because I don't quite remember who that was, but you know, I'm assuming that you've been through something similar. I think it's safe to assume that if you have requested this video, and you know, to anyone that has been through something similar, I feel your pain. I acknowledge it. I hope that this video has kind of, you know, at least, I hope at least like it's helped you validate some of the things that you are feeling. Oftentimes, you know, you don't have someone to go and talk to about these things. That's like probably a big reason why people tend to feel like alone and isolated after these things happen. I definitely felt that way for some time. Um, but frankly, there are a lot of people out there that have gone through similar things. So I think being open about these topics and talking about it with people and seeking out people who will support you, like your family and your friends, I feel like is the most important thing for you to do, and I think is key to helping you heal and continue to grow as a person. Because you know, being stuck on these sorts of things is, I feel like that's the worst thing you can do, right? Like you always hear people say like, oh, this isn't what, you know, XYZ person would have wanted from you. And I feel like that's true. Like I, you know, if someone passes away, I think the last thing they'd want you to do is be stuck on that forever. Um, so yeah, that's my 2 cents on this whole topic. Yeah, if you know y'all want to talk about this sort of stuff in the comments, please do. I'd be, again, like I read pretty much everything. I don't get too many comments. I read everything, and I'm sure other people in the comments have been through similar things and would be willing to talk about those things with you. And also, if you have something you'd like something very personal you'd like to share, you can, you know, if you wanted to submit it to the Google form in the description, would be happy to talk about that stuff later in the video or in a later video as well. But yeah, tough video to make. But I hope that this video has helped you in some way. And yeah, we're done with the roof. Sweet. Um, but yeah, happy Easter to anyone who celebrates it, because it is Easter today as I'm recording this video. And yeah, thanks for the support. See you in the next video. Peace.